We're going to be doing Bellatrix Lestrange for our third caricature using a red fine line. I have the brush size 7 and any color red. Figuring out her overall face shape. She has a more angular face, so I'm going to stick to those angles, very sharp jawline. I'm going to go ahead and put her neck in a little bit smaller and longer and very tiny shoulders, separating her face up, checking her nose shape. I'm going to put in a line for where her mouth is going to go just to help guide me. And I'm going to make her lips a lot bigger just because they're red and I think they should be exaggerated. Popping in that nose, kind of following the shape, not really exaggerating it any. Really arched eyebrows. I'm going to make her eyes very large for this one here. I did everything a little high, so I'm going to bring it all down in the final black line art. So I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of those hairlines, and I normally don't do that, but her hair is a big focal point, and I'm trying to decide how I want to do it. Starting with her eyes and making them really big, Tim Burton-esque eyes, and kind of giving her a dead stare because she's supposed to be a little bit crazy. And in the book series, she's really gaunt, so I'm gonna make her a little bit more gaunt in this than I would in the movie version. Bringing her nose down a little like I had talked about. That paint bucket tool is my friend here to make things go nice and fast. Connecting that nose to the eye arch and the lips. Again, I told you I'm making these even bigger than I had planned on doing. I might get rid of that center line in there. Gonna go ahead and just finish the eyebrows now. They're pretty thin and arched, and leave them like that. Alright, so let's talk about her hair. She's got wavy hair and what's called ribbon hair. So instead of just doing squiggles, you could fully flesh out to create these shapes. That would be a wave versus a ribbon here. But this is more of a traditional technique. You could add some of it in some detailed pieces of your caricature. I'm probably not really going to. But it's a good technique to know. I don't think having fully fleshed out hair is good for this character. So just adding some directional lines to give me an idea. I'm going to speed through some of this a little bit just because, not going to lie, I'm going to get rid of a lot of this. Let's add the face shape. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and her neck a little bit longer and her shoulders tiny. Adding in her little necklace. I believe it's a skull, but apparently I just made a cross. I'm not really sure what I was going for there, but that's okay. Told you I would get rid of that hair and try again. And she's got some crazy hair. Try and find which direction the hair is going in and go for it. Doesn't have to be exact. We're just giving the illusion of the same hair. Just got kind of a little bump right in the back there before it starts coming all out everywhere. So, book Bellatrix, she also had some crazy hair, but it was more stringy. I might change that to be more like the book. She is super pale. She spent a very long time in wizard prison, so keeping her pale. And going with a super gray color, super gray brown for her shading. I don't want to bring any warmth to her because she never sees sunlight. She's pale, but not a vampire. Adding a lot of that color around her eyes because, you know, she wasn't fed well in prison, so we need to make sure she looks pretty gaunt. adding just a little bit of pink into the face in certain areas. And some white highlights as well, and smudging. Smudge, smudge, smudge till it's all blended in and looks pretty smooth. I'm really liking how gaunt her eyes look. Going with the red lips. Very dark, really big contrast. I'm not really liking the left side of her lips. I think I might change that later, but for now, we'll just keep going. Shade that lip, darker in the center and on the corners. Sorry, you guys. Shading in the directions her lips actually go, like the lip wrinkles, and blending in. Erasing everywhere I went outside the line because I can't help myself. And brown eyes. Color fill. Let's add a little bit of shading. A little darker, actually. And a little highlight, and go ahead and blend all of that in. I'm going to add the white for the actual eyeballs, as well as the highlight, too. I'm going to shade, though, her eyeballs a little gray, because, again, she's supposed to look kind of sickly-ish. It's not super noticeable, but it's there. Add some more of that eyeshadow and gauntness to her eyes. Kind of flaring it out, putting some around her nose, adding some wrinkles in with that. Shading color as well, so it's pretty subtle. Kind of kept going back and forth on where I wanted that highlight, if you couldn't tell. And we're adding black eyeliner and mascara. I'm making it a little bit cleaner than what it looked in the cartoon. I meant real image-ish thing. Alright, just going to pop in a gray here. I'll add some black shading to it at the very end. I'm not going to follow the structure of it very closely. Going to do the same gray for that necklace and maybe a highlighted gray as well. Time to work on the hair. So I really changed my mind a lot on this hair. I'm going to do the hair in two different ways. One like this, and then another more simplified version as well. In the book, she's described as having long, stringy-ish hair, whereas in the movie it was a little bit more volume and wild. So I'm going to do two different versions because it just shows you two different techniques as well. So I'm just creating sections and then color filling it, and I'm making sure those sections have waves. Having some of it go in front of her face, some not in front of her face, just going all around and all over the place. I'm going to speed up this section because it is a little bit tedious. If you can't tell, it's important to make sure your section is closed before you hit that paint bucket fill. I took away the black lines here just because I was getting a little lost in what I was doing, and that way I could see without it. So this is what style number 1 hair would look like. I think she looks a little bit younger than I want her to look with this one, so I am going to change it up and get rid of that layer. We'll just hide it. It's still there. And I'm going to make the hair longer and stringier. I'm doing less details in it. I'm just kind of putting in this outline with this color, and I'll come back in with a lighter color as well. So now that I kind of have this outline, I'm going to come in with a fill color. I don't want it to be too light, but I want it to be lighter than what we just drew. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill this whole section in. So we're filled in. We're going to add a little bit more detail with some black lines or close to black lines. I'm not being super specific on the direction because I do want it to look wild and crazy. So just kind of going around adding in some of these black squiggly wavy lines. And I'm going to do the same thing in a medium color and a lighter color and then smudge some of that in to get it a little bit smoother, but I want it to look wild and disheveled. Gonna go ahead and change the lip to be a tiny bit more downturned on this left hand side as well. And let's go ahead and add in that shadow. She's got a shadow across her face. At first I wasn't gonna do it, but I think it kind of adds to her broken-ish look. And shading in the shirt now. Don't forget to use your smudge tool. Time to put in our background, a little darker, and erase everything that went outside of the lines. Before I do that, I'm going to add the outline a little bit thicker on the shirt and add some arms in there, just the illusion there. All right, erase where I went outside the lines. I have to do that in 2 separate layers since I did shading on one layer and base color on another. Here we go. Bellatrix Lestrange.